Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. Some people still don't get it, and I want to set the record straight. I want to make sure that everybody understands that you are not asking permission when you are asserting your civil rights. I think it's very important that we educate people who are trying to trample on our rights. My whole platform is based on truth and freedom and education and inspiration and encouragement and empowerment, certainly. But I think it's so important that we learn how to stand up for our rights, educate others that are trying to trample on our rights, and not just roll over and comply and capitulate and go along with it because we didn't know how to stand up. So every once in a while, after I do a video, as I did yesterday or the day before, about how to avoid the pitfalls in standing up for your rights, I will get comments such as, "You shouldn't have to ask for permission. You're just going along with it, Peggy, by having people ask for exemptions." Well, that's not what I do. And I'm going to set the record straight for you in just a moment. As a reminder, actually, let's hop on over here. You know, I'm here Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific. I also get people who say, "Welcome back, Peggy. I've missed you." Like, I haven't been anywhere. I'm here every day. You're the one that's going missing. So don't wait for some kind of notification. YouTube is not going to give it to you. But what you want to do is when you go to the channel, they will, like, here it is, home, and it will share a few videos. And some of these, again, they're like 10 months old. But if you click on videos, you'll get my most recent videos that are a premiere, like the one I'm doing right now. And then be sure that you click on the live tab. The live is where I am on screen with you. Most of my videos are live. I really enjoy that. I don't always have the, ability to come live because of different things, but I love interacting with you, whether it's in a premiere video like this or going live. So I did a couple of videos here about fighting back against these ridiculous requirements in California. And then I had a video for you about pitfalls to avoid. And that's the video that I need to clarify and do a little more info on. I know I'm a perfectionist at heart. Many of you say, "Peggy, there are some people that just are not going to get it. Move on." But I can't just leave people behind. So I'm going to clarify that for you in just a moment. In fact, for all of my longtime healthy Americans, why don't you drop in a comment right now what you think I'm going to say about this concept of asking permission for an exemption? Is that really what's going on here? Let me know, and then we will talk all about it. I do want to thank the sponsor of today's show, and we are going over here to dermal1.com/Peggy. Now, this is not for everyone, but it is for you. If you want to look as good as you feel, I told you I've got a birthday right around the corner, and I'm the perfect age for this stage of life. But if you are interested in reducing the appearance of wrinkles and fine lines and sagging skin, then please listen carefully, because looking younger was once thought to be a luxury that only women who had access to costly professional treatments could enjoy. So basically, the rich and famous could stay ageless. And now there is a game-changing discovery that is leveling the playing field as more and more women and men are learning to fight back against their body's aging switch. So it turns out that it's possible to slow down the appearance of aging, and most people can do it themselves easily at home. So this latest anti-aging trend is not about aggressive treatments or expensive creams, but it is a simple daily ritual that takes less than a minute to perform. See, this is a plastic surgeon here, but you don't need plastic surgery. He has created this product that you can learn all about when you go to the free tutorial, and it's dermal1, the number 1.com/Peggy. I'll have a link for you in the description box below. And he's got an effective approach that you want to learn all about. This tutorial has been viewed by thousands of women, and when they follow his protocol, they are finding quite extraordinary results. For example, firmer feeling skin, fewer visible wrinkles, thicker looking hair, increased energy. And of course, everyone's body reacts differently. And the FDA needs me to tell you that they have not evaluated these statements. And this product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. All individuals are unique. And as such, your results can and will vary. But you can try this without having to do professional treatments, creams, or lifestyle changes. It's much less expensive than going under the knife. And if you're interested in looking significantly younger without the cost and hassle of seeing a professional, try out this science-backed protocol, and you can do it at home. Again, dermal1.com/Peggy, or click in the link that I'll have you in the description box below. Friends, let's clarify my teaching when I educate people about how to stand up for their rights at the workplace. And this is really interesting because, people will ask me sometimes that they don't know me very well, or maybe new people that I've met, and they'll ask me what I do. And it's kind of an interesting question because at the root of it, what my husband says, he describes me as a constitutional advocate, or better yet, a civil rights expert. And at the root of it, these are civil rights. Now, we all have God-given rights that were imbued in us, right, at conception. We really have the right to live freely. We have the right to our own conscience, our own thoughts, our own words, our actions, our feelings, our behaviors. All of that is within our control. And in the history of our country, in the 1960s, there was what's called a civil rights revolution, really a civil rights movement. And it's interesting because it really came to a head in the colleges and universities, where Black students were not allowed to attend these colleges and universities. And there were a lot of things that were going on with Martin Luther King. But just to summarize, out of this tumult came something, a new piece of legislation called the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And I find it interesting that it started in the colleges and universities because they're the worst with discrimination to this very day. I've done several videos over the last couple of weeks because I'm filming this now at the end of August. This is when students are going back to school. I've helped a number of nursing students be able to go through their clinical practice without becoming a human pincushion. I've helped dozens of legal immigrants get their status without becoming a human pincushion, especially when it comes to the cooties jab. And there have been so many success stories. I mean, hundreds of thousands when I think about it, because I know the views on my videos, and I've heard from so many people that have emailed me after benefiting from my free educational videos. And then smaller number of people have sought my help personally, but it all boils down to the Civil Rights Act. I speak about it a lot, and I thought it would be useful for us to take a look at exactly what this is. So let's hop on over, and then I'm going to answer this objection in terms of why are you asking for permission? Actually, let me just jump right ahead to the punchline. You're not asking for permission. You are informing your employer or your doctor, or in the case of an individual going to school, your school administrator, you are informing them of your rights. So think about this. Most people on this platform that are listening in probably have held a job at some point in their life. Now, I've been self-employed for many years, but when I had a job, and let's say that my car broke down, or I was running late, or I had to go to the dentist appointment, or there was some kind of emergency, I would inform my employer about that, right? I would let my employer know I'm not going to be here on Thursday morning because I've got a dentist appointment. Or let's say something happened and I can't get to work on time. I would call and inform is the word. I would inform my employer that I couldn't come in because of some unforeseen event. Imagine if I just didn't show up at work that day. That wouldn't go so well, would it? Because I have a contract with my employer. I signed an agreement that I would perform these activities and do this kind of work, and they would give me money for it. I mean, what a nice arrangement. So if I just didn't show up, that would not be very professional. It certainly wouldn't be very polite, and it would not be very thoughtful, and it might cause some friction. So informing your employer about a situation that relates to the workplace is what you are doing with your religious exemption. You are not asking for permission. I have no idea where that phrase came from. Someone please let me know where that phrase came from. Did I ever say it? Did I ever say you're going to ask permission from your employer? I don't think I've ever said it. And if I did, please find the clip so I can edit it and make amends. You are not asking anyone for anything. You are informing your employer that you are exempt. You're not asking for an exemption. You're stating a fact that you are exempt from this requirement, from this situation. And that's what the law recognizes. And you don't have to belong to a church, and you don't have to have any statement of doctrine from a pastor. You don't have to prove that the Catholic Church says that it's okay for you not to become a human pincushion. It's your individual belief. Now, if you don't have a religious belief, but you have an objection based on ethical or moral grounds, those are also protected by law. We have actually helped educate atheists, yes, because that is a type of faith, on how to resist this imposed requirement. So where in the non-spinning world, yes, I said it, listen carefully, where in the non-spinning world did this idea come from that you are asking permission of your employer? You're informing, and I know I'm repeating myself because people still haven't gotten it. You're informing your employer, just like you would inform your employer if you have a dentist appointment or your car broke down or you're running late or you have to take Friday off. You're informing them. Now, your employer is required, or your doctor or the college administrator is required by law. What does that mean? It's not optional. It means they're legally bound to accommodate you. What does accommodate mean? It means they have to make an arrangement whereby it's okay for you and it's okay for them. So it's kind of like a negotiation. And I've given an example. This is a real life example. And I know the person personally who is a pharmacist who has a religious objection to selling birth control pills. Now, this is a perfect example for how this works. So if some customer shows up and this pharmacist is at the cash register and the person is getting their birth control pills, they get the number, and the pharmacist has the legal right to not complete that transaction. The pharmacist doesn't have the legal right to have a conversation with the person saying, you shouldn't be doing this. Why are you doing this? And I suppose that is protected by free speech. But the example that I'm trying to make is that the pharmacist doesn't have the right to make no birth control be available in that pharmacy. But the pharmacist does have the right to not complete that transaction because it is an objectionable activity. So that would require an accommodation. An accommodation is whereby the employer would have someone else ring up that transaction. And that's how it works. That is a reasonable accommodation. There is a compromise. So in the case of an employee who says, let's say they work at home and they're being told that they have to become a human pincushion in order to keep their job. Well, you inform your employer. I'm going to show you the law in just one moment. You inform your employer that you object to this based on your religious beliefs, that you prayed about it and God told you not to do it. That's the simplest, most concise way of doing it. You don't have to get into all the science and the medicine. I spoke about the pitfalls a moment ago that will take you down the wrong path if you start talking about how healthy you are and all the nourishing food that you eat and how you exercise. That's not a religious outlook, and they will likely deny that. So if you have been denied, it's not because if you have been denied, it's likely that your employer was looking for a little thread to unravel, and unfortunately, you fell into their trap. It should be as simple as checking a box, but unfortunately, these evildoers have gone to great lengths to try to get everyone under their spell, literally. In the case of the employer wanting to accommodate the employer can ask questions such as, are there any other products that you are not comfortable ringing up? Let me know so that I can have another cashier on hand. Or they have to have some kind of ability to accommodate you. The employer cannot ask the employee if she has ever taken birth control pills. That is outside the scope of information that can be asked. It's intrusive, it's unnecessary, and it's excessive. So when your employer is asking you if you are taking Advil or X-Lax or Pepto-Bismol, because these products have also been created using the cell lines of aborted fetuses, I don't even know if that's true, but that's what a lot of these employers are saying. They're trying to catch you in their trap by saying, aha, if you take Pepto-Bismol, therefore you can get a jab. Yes, because they're exactly the same. And by the way, I would ask the employer, are you saying that Pepto-Bismol is now a requirement for me to keep my job? Are you going to require everyone to take Pepto-Bismol every day, or X-Lax or Advil? So there's always a way of responding to these ridiculous inquiries from the employer. Now, I understand when you're literally on the hot seat, and it's very nerve-wracking, and it's difficult to think clearly and to answer these questions. And that's where I come in to help you have the information so that you can continue to inform your employer. You're not asking for any permission. This is a legally protected activity that you have. So let me share with you what that is. So it's very clear. You inform your employer of the objection. Your employer is required by law to accommodate you. Now, there are thousands upon thousands of criminal employers out there, and I can say that with great confidence because they're breaking the law. These HR department heads or whoever was reviewing your paperwork, they either were intentionally ignorant, and they certainly were ignorant, or they were intentionally trying to deceive you, or they were just, again, incompetent, and they had no clue as to what the law states. So with many of my clients in their appeals, we start out kind of with a softball approach. Hey, I just wanted to let you know I'm not going to be participating. So I'll continue working from home, just like you made me all year, safest place for me to be. And we also have ways of objecting to the nasal assault. You don't have to do that. I've got videos on this channel with step-by-step how to do that. And you also, in the case where people don't want to put on the, as I call it, the suffocation device, and there are plenty of people who feel safe wearing that, that's fine. But just know that you can also, like for me, I breathe oxygen. That's the way I worship God. I worship God through his breath of life. So no, I'm not going to do that. Now, there are cases where people worked in a medical setting and there were protocols in place and had been for many years. For those that were unjabbed, they wore the mask. In a medical setting, it's been like that for years. So there were people that were fine doing that. They knew it. They went along with that. That's fine. That's your choice. There were others that didn't even want to do that. So in that case, the employer would be required by law to give them a different assignment. So let's say even in a teaching setting, you're a teacher. The administration says you're far too dangerous breathing on people because your breath could kill people. So therefore, we're going to take you out of the classroom and now you're going to work as a curriculum coordinator or something online. Well, you may want to still be in the classroom, but the law would recognize this new assignment as an accommodation. That's why it's a compromise. It's a negotiation, but it is required to be reasonable. There was a case, many cases, in fact, where teachers were told, well, you can work at this other school, but it's 3 hours away. Well, that's not reasonable. Now, you don't have to have a religious objection for not driving 3 hours. You simply say it's not reasonable. You already acknowledged my exemption, and now we're talking about the accommodation. So this accommodation needs to be reasonable. And that's the grounds to stand on for the nasal assault. Being tested twice weekly, or even every day, or even once a week for an illness that you don't have, that's not reasonable. It's actually unreasonable. And I know it's unreasonable because that's the behavior of a hypochondriac. And a hypochondriac is a person that it's actually a type of mental illness. Imagine if you wanted to go to the doctor every week for a chest x-ray to make sure you didn't have tuberculosis. I don't think the doctor is going to do it after one time. He's going to say, I just gave you the chest x-ray, but I might have caught it yesterday. I might be carrying it around today and I don't know it. Why don't they give chest x-rays to people every week? So these are the types of the rationale that I use when I've helped my clients stand up for their rights. Now, I also think it's important to do this to educate your employer as to these civil rights laws. So you actually, it's like a 1-2 punch. Not only are you informing them of your rights, you're educating them about the law because they're so ignorant. And at the end of the day, there are people who are going to violate your rights. I've seen it left, right, and center, especially with the airlines and especially with healthcare settings like Kaiser, for example. Now, the airlines finally did come around. I'm grateful that I played a role in that. I have a video probably still on this channel all about Southwest Airlines. And I also did one for Kaiser. I think it's got 250,000 views. Can't believe it's still up on this channel. And I went through the law step by step by step by step. And after I explained the law, and this one particularly was targeted towards Southwest because the CEO was so ignorant of the law. It's so simple. And I explained that when an employee has an objection, the employer is required to accommodate them. And that's as simple and clear as it gets. So it's illegal, as I'm about to show you, to put you on unpaid leave because that's treating you different than anyone else, not because of your job status, but because of your religious belief. And your religious belief is protected by law. So I will continue to speak out about this until my last God-given breath, because it's very important for people to know their rights. So let's do this. We're going to hop on over. Oh, I wanted to finish saying, after I did this video about Southwest, and then the day after I did that video, which was, again, viewed by hundreds of thousands of people, especially the Southwest employees, and I know because they wrote to me thanking me for helping them keep their job. As a matter of fact, I was on, believe it or not, on an airplane recently, and the flight attendant came up to me and she said, I follow all of your videos and I want to thank you for helping me keep my job without the jab. So I was so grateful that I was able to help her. I'll have to do a video about flying a little bit later because there were a couple of very strange things that happened there as well. That, again, some pitfalls hopefully you can avoid. I did not fly on Southwest. I will draw the line at that. So, but I hold no grudges. I actually helped Southwest airline employees, even though they didn't treat me very well back in 2020. The Southwest airline employees went on strike the following day after my video aired. And then the subsequent day, the CEO said, okay, I made a mistake. We'll figure out accommodations. Everyone that has a religious exemption, you will be accommodated. That's how it should be. So let's take a look at the law. I want to make it very clear. What I seek to do on this channel is educate, empower, encourage, inspire. Very, very simple. This is a summary, and you'll find it at the eeoc.gov. I will have a link for you in my Substack. I don't leave a lot of links on this channel because, as I showed you in my YouTube censorship video, they can take down your videos if they don't like the outgoing links. So all of this is over at peggyhall.substack.com. Remember to give me a day or two after the airing of this video. Some of you go to Substack to look for this video while to look for the article. Well, give me a day or two to get the article published first, and then you'll have all of that. I've got, oh my gosh, I think well over 100 articles there for you. It's absolutely free. And I do thank those that have gotten a paid subscription, which helps me do my work. And I really appreciate your support. And then you join our private webinars every month, those who are financial supporters. Let's take a look at this. The EEOC was created in 1964. It's called the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. It is the government agency that is supposed to clarify all of these laws that were created. Title VII is basically the seventh chapter in these laws. I will do a deep dive if you're interested on the other ones that relate to students. There's one that relates to your right to vote without being discriminated against. There were subsequent laws made about housing and those who are disabled. But this one, Title VII, is about those at the workplace. It's very, very simple. So it says, okay, here we go. This is the most important section in this law, Section 2000E-2. It shall be unlawful employment practice for an employer to fail or refuse to hire. So for those of you who are applying for a job, you are covered by this law. I've done videos on this channel already. You can do a search. under applicant or, job interview, something along those lines. I break it down for you step by step. So it's unlawful. It's illegal for an employer to refuse to hire you or to fail to hire you or to discharge, meaning terminate any individual or otherwise discriminate. Otherwise means fill in the blank with any other discriminatory behavior against any individual with respect to his compensation. That means those of you that were placed on unpaid leave because you were unjabbed, illegal, I think you should go back and try to get your unemployment. Unemployment applies to unpaid wages. Even if you still had a job, you still can get unemployment assistance. It's illegal to discriminate against you with any kind of terms, meaning the jabbed are allowed to go to the holiday party and the unjabbed aren't. That's illegal. I fought against that successfully as well. It's illegal, unlawful to discriminate against you for any types of conditions or privileges of employment. Meaning, like I say, some of you were told that you had to go on a special bus. That happens in this next paragraph. It's illegal to limit or segregate or classify you or classify any applicants in any way in which would deprive or tend to deprive any individual of employment opportunities or otherwise adversely affect his status as an employee because of such individual's race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. This also applies to labor unions. It applies to employment agencies. And as I say, it applies to employers or potential employers. So let me break this down very simply. There were those who got jabbed, and then there were those who didn't. And especially in the healthcare settings, the unjabbed had some kind of sticker that they were supposed to wear on their name badge. That's segregation. That's classification. It is illegal to classify you or to treat you differently, such as unpaid leave, or you have to sit over there, or you can't get on the bus. There was another one where in the entertainment industry, people were going off to the production locations and the unjabbed were in their own little bus. Now, you could take that to a court of law and a judge or a jury might apply this law that I just showed you and say, well, that is an accommodation. It's a reasonable accommodation. Those that are the vermin, the disease that don't even know it, they have to be in their own little bus. But I would argue, as an attorney, I would say, Your Honor, that is segregating individuals, no different than making all the white people be on one bus and Hispanics be on another, or blondes and brunettes, or men and women, or anybody over 40 or under 40. You might think it's a good idea, but it is illegal according to the Civil Rights Act. And that was, 1964, that's 60 years ago. And we're still revisiting it now, even worse than ever. On the flip side, when it comes to discriminating against someone based on their gender or their sex, it seems like anything goes. You can be hired as John and then show up a week later in a dress and high heels and call yourself Joan, and everyone goes along with it. You don't need any paperwork. You don't need any approval from a committee. You just show up one day and everybody goes along with it. And to do so otherwise would, in the eyes of the law, be a violation of the law. It's a violation of the law for an employer not to hire someone because they're a homosexual. It's a violation of the law. It would be a violation of the law to have all the gay people work in one building and the straight people work in another one. And I'm using these examples, and they are a little bit, inflammatory in a way. And I'm doing that on purpose to demonstrate how ridiculous it is and was and will be to treat those jabbed and unjabbed differently. And then you're going to say, well, Peggy, my employer said I'm putting them at risk. Oh, you're in luck. I have dozens of videos that break that down for you step by step. And then they'll say, well, it's an undue hardship. You're in luck again. I've done several videos where even the most recent law said that it is not a hardship. In fact, let me share that with you as well. So I'm going to hop right on over here. And this is right here at the EEOC. This was a lawsuit that was settled, actually not settled, it was ruled on successfully in 2023. I did an entire deep dive video on this, Groff versus DeJoy, and it shows that a hardship has to be, it shows right here, undue hardship by a company is shown when a burden is substantial in the overall context of an employer's business. Meaning, let me just break this down for you again. Employers who are telling you, well, we can't let you be unjabbed because it's a hardship. Oh, really? It's a hardship. Now, the law says that it can be a hardship. It can even be like a minimal hardship. But the company or the agency that you're working for has to demonstrate with evidence that it is indeed a hardship. Now, if you asked as an unjabbed person to have a chauffeur show up at your house every day and drive you to work so that you would be in a hermetically sealed car, and then you had your own office constructed for you with some type of high quality ventilation, and you required a 5-star gourmet organic chef to create these meals for you that were healthy, and you had to have all of this fuss and expense be included for you to continue to go to work, that would be a hardship, and they could require that. But think about it. Employers are required to have handicapped parking spaces. They're required to have a bathroom for the handicapped. They're required to have all these other kinds of accommodations that are related to civil rights, yet they can't accommodate you. It doesn't make sense. And I would argue that in a court of law. I would also argue this, and this is your slam dunk right here. So think about a case, and there are plenty of them, where you've got, let's say, a woman who has worked for 20 years as a sales rep for a company. During all of the first initial hogwashing in 2020, the company sent everyone home, including this salesperson, who normally did a lot of face-to-face calls and went to sales meetings and different trade shows and so forth. But in 2020, nobody could do that, but they still kept the business going. In fact, she not only kept the business going, she met all of her sales quotas, and she even exceeded them, and she got a promotion along the way. So she's been a successful employee, and the business was not harmed by her working from home. We can agree on that because those are the facts. Now, the employer says, well, you can't come back to work until you're a human pincushion. And she says, well, I'm not going to do that because it conflicts with my religious beliefs. So you'll have to accommodate me. I'll just keep working like I have all this time. I did great. I did the stuff on Zoom, and I met with people outside if they wanted to, and we sat 6 feet apart if they wanted to, and it was fine. And the employer says, well, we can't do that because everybody has to be back in the office now. Well, yes, that's the whole nature of an accommodation. It's a compromise. I'm going to have a different arrangement because the law requires you to create an arrangement that doesn't violate my religious beliefs. And then the employer says, well, it's a hardship. We can't have everyone back in the office and not you. You have to go to these meetings face to face. You have to go to the trade shows. So here's my argument in the court of law. Your Honor, firing this person, because that's what they did, that's not a hardship. The company is claiming that keeping her on, even though she exceeded her sales quotas and she was promoted, and keeping her on doing the same exact work that she did for these last couple of years, the company is claiming that this is a hardship. But they're claiming it's not a hardship to fire her and then have to go through all of the time, energy, resources, expense, headaches, what ifs to recruit for her job position, because she worked there for 20 years, to try to find someone, right? Recruit for that job position. Have to pay recruiters, have to have the headhunters. Then they have to interview these applicants after they spend all the hours reading through all of the reading through all of their resumes. Then they have to spend all those hours, days, weeks, months, maybe even a year or more interviewing the applicants. Then when the committee has to spend all of the time deciding on who they want to hire, then they have to go back to the applicant and make the job offer, all that back and forth with the paperwork and the signing of the documents. And then it gets better. Then they have to do the onboarding for the employee. They have to bring the new employee on. They have to train the new employee for the job. And then they have to cross their fingers and hope that that employee is going to perform as well as that employee who worked for them for 2 decades did. That's not a hardship, Your Honor. Case closed. All right, friends, it's been a lot of fun. I'm glad that I could set the record straight. You are informing your employer of your religious rights. This is not an issue of jabbed or unjabbed. It's an issue of you standing up and having your religious observance, beliefs, and practice be accommodated just like the law requires. Thanks for being on board, everybody. I've got another video for you coming up. And this is actually a video that aired on my Living Swell channel. That is where we don't talk about all this kind of stuff. We talk about emotional well-being and dealing with difficult people and elevating your physical, mental, and emotional, spiritual well-being. And so that is every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific. I hope that you'll subscribe to that channel as well, because if this one ever goes down, that's where you can find me. But the information that I'm going to share with you, I thought was so compelling that I wanted to make sure that my Healthy American audience was able to see it as well. And I think I'll have a bonus video for you at this weekend as well. I've got an interview with the CEO of Noble Gold Investments. He is someone that I know personally, and we are going to be talking about this ridiculous Kamala Harris proposal of increasing taxes even on things that you haven't even earned yet. So stay tuned. We'll dig into that this weekend as well. I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you in the very next video.